Hello and welcome to my presentation on why Hotori is the best character in NTE currently. Hotori's first impressions were honestly quite stellar. She's extremely simple to play, has fast and snappy animations, and requires extremely little field time. That's because around 98% of the time you'll be in her ultimate state, and during ultimates in this game, the timer doesn't actually tick down. In practice though, you'll only be on her for maybe about 2 or 3 seconds per rotation, yet she still outputs like massive damage numbers. Her kit is also incredibly straightforward. She just does a lot of damage and that's practically all she needs to do. Now, you might wonder why it's called Hotori, the best character in NTE, when there's already so much competition within the Cosmos element itself. On one hand, you have Cheese, who's extremely strong early game, can basically solo content, and honestly is kind of hot too. On the other hand, you have the MC, Zero, who's basically a flex tape for reaction-based teams because he can instantly Esper cycle. But what you need to consider is that Cheese kind of works on a flat damage oriented hit, which makes her extremely powerful, sure, during the game's early life cycle, but as, the months go by and the enemy's HP inevitably inflates, as it does in these type of games, characters, and particularly Cheese, will fall off extremely quickly because she just doesn't have a lot of ways to amp up her damage. Similarly, Zero, while incredibly valuable right now, it's only a matter of time before he gets replaced by someone else who does the same thing, while maybe even buffing the team further than he does with his awakenings. So where does that leave Hotori? The reality is that she does too much damage. Depending on your team composition, Hotori alone can contribute anywhere between 30 to 50% of your team's total damage output. And if you're pairing her up with someone like, Nanalie, who's extremely strong herself, it might be closer to 30%, but with other, DPSs in the game like Daffodil or Baikung, her contribution might go up to 50%, which is quite incredible for her field time. What makes this especially valuable is just how flexible she is. Her time stop mechanics gives you excellent quality of life, especially in modes like the bank heist. She can basically aura farm on your enemies, and she lets you reroll auctions for, getting your fucking cat leveled up in your apartment. And she literally just gave you 10 standard balls for existing, so that's a lot of, upsides that Hotori is providing. Another thing that I'd like to address before we move on is the narrative that she has free damage because, she pauses time or whatever. The reality is, as I said, that everyone's ultimates pauses the timer in this game. It's not really something that is special about Hotori, but what is special about her is that she also pauses the cooldowns for your abilities, and in some instances, she can elongate, like Nanalie's ability outside of combat, things like that are good QL. The biggest impact on Hotori's kit is that because 99% of her damage is from her ultimate, you're realistically only spending 1 second on her timer-wise, while dishing out upwards of 200k damage if your Hotori is particularly well built, and that is kind of just insane damage numbers. And thinking of DPS purely, she is the highest DPS in the game right now by a massive margin. It's not even close. In that sense, her utility really just comes from being such a overwhelming sense of power. It's not free damage, but it's not really that different from a cheat code. But moving on, let's talk about Hotori for dummies. If you don't understand her kit, here it is. Her ultimate takes about 30 seconds. Not about, it takes exactly 30 seconds to go from 0 to 100. You start the combat with 100% ultimate, but you use a skill which in itself costs at least 50% of the ultimate energy cost. So that means after casting her skill, which you need to do to, kind of record the skills of your allies, you need to wait another 15 seconds. So her rotation would be that you start your combat with Hotori, you use a skill, then you move out to your other teammates, you use their skills or their, support skills, and then after 15 seconds have passed, maybe you've spent time on your main DPS, you come back to Hotori, you ult, and you delete everyone. After ulting, the energy is down to 0, which would mean that you would need to go back to your team members again for 15 seconds and then come back to Hotori to use her skill again. So that is basically how the rotation would kind of just loop around from that point onwards. Moving on to her gearing, it's extremely simple. The game basically has another mode where it just tells you what to equip, so just use that. But if you want a little bit more insight, here are the two options. The first one is Lost Radiance set. It is the best one. It's a Cosmos damage set, and since Hotori's entire identity kind of revolves around dealing a lot of damage, this is the best performing one and what would feel the most comfortable for you to use. If you don't have a good Lost Radiance set for some reason, you can use Speedy Hedgehog that you got from progressing the story. It's okay, it's something you would need to change once you, get a good Lost Radiance piece, but for now it'll be fine. Moving on to the main stat needs to be Cosmos damage percent. If you cannot find one, maybe a crit rate or a crit damage will work until you find a Cosmos damage main stat. For substats, the best one obviously, predictably, would be a mix of crit rate, crit damage, damage percent, and attack percent. But we don't live in such fucking utopias, so a mix of any three good stats will be fine. And as for the Tetris pieces themselves, she gets 10% Cosmos damage bonus for every type 3 module, so try to fit in as many as you can. To get Lost Radiance fully, you can, at minimum, you can actually fit 4 type 3 modules, so make sure you're doing that. So, the final verdict on Hotori is that she is extremely seamless to play, that she does insane damage per second, it's not even close, and that she will only get better as more and more DPSs get released in the game's life cycle, who will synergize with her 15-second, leeway. And right now, she is kind of the closest to a no-brainer pull, and if you have been on the fence about her, I would say just go get her, bro.